If you didn't know it already, the number one superpower to have in this day and age is focus. The ability to focus on a singular goal over a long period of time without allowing distractions to cloud your brain. Changing your life requires focus, and focus requires an organized mind. And you will never reorganize your mind if you don't stop over-consuming content. This is a revelation I've had, I wouldn't say in the last week, but in the last year or so, I've noticed that I struggle to sit down and do work. And I'm sure you've noticed the same thing. If you're watching self-improvement videos, if you're trying to change your life and you're still watching self-improvement videos, you probably struggle to sit down and do the work. And I can tell you the number one thing that is stopping you from doing your work is over-consuming content. Because if you're over-consuming content, you're overstimulated. If you're just watching TikTok or you're watching YouTube videos, you're watching stuff that's really stimulating you. When it comes to sitting down and doing the work, boring work, it's going to be way too boring for you to actually sit down and focus. And just imagine you've watched like a political video, or you've watched a couple of political TikToks on TikTok or YouTube. And this is something they do, by the way. It's deliberate. They put content in there and they push out content to you that riles you up. If you notice, your For You page is never really just like feel good things. It's always somewhat political, something that just pisses you off. Even if you watch, like, say you scroll through 100 videos, you'll get one there's always that one that absolutely pisses you off. Whatever it is, it's just something you don't agree with, something that riles you up. This is intentional because now it gets your energy up, right? And it does something to your brain. Now you're addicted. Every time you come back, you want to come back, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna show it to these people, or whatever it is. You're like, oh, it just does something to your brain. Okay, they've done a lot of research on this, and that's why they deliberately put it. But I want you to think about it. Every time you go on to watch anything, especially on TikTok, there's not a time you come off and you're like, I watched 20 pieces of content and they were all like perfectly fine. No, there's something that's absolutely polarizing that riles you up, because that's what gets you to come back to the content. Now, when you just come from that, just imagine you just come from watching some political TikTok, and you're coming back and you're sitting down and you're trying to do work, right? It would be somewhat like, for me, what I'll do. Say I'm sitting down to do tax, right? I'm sitting down to study tax, and I've just seen a political video on like abortion or whatever it is, and it's just pissed me off for whatever reason. I'm not going to be able to focus on that, because in my brain, every five seconds, I'm busy thinking about that video, or I'm busy arguing with myself, or imagining myself in an argument, winning that argument. You get what I mean? When you've got stuff like that happening, you're never going to sit down and do your work. Right? And for me, I've kind of known that, but I never made it like a number one priority. And the thing is, in this day and age, if you don't make something a number one priority, it's probably never going to get done. And I want you to just think about if there's something you're trying to quit in your life, right? Or if there's something you're trying to take on, a good habit you're trying to take on, and it just hasn't stuck. You've been trying to do it for like the last year. I want you to think about it, how much you're prioritizing it. You hear people talk a lot about what's your why. If you're if you're studying something you don't like or whatever it is, find out what your why is. Do the same thing for your habits, right? If your habit is not like prioritized number one, if you don't have a clear reason why you're doing it, it's never going to get done. I'll start like with me, gymming. Okay, gymming. I know the one thing, I obviously want to have an amazing body, and I want to look attractive so I can get, eventually get a girlfriend or whatever it is. So that's more than enough motivation for me to work out. But there's times where I don't feel like working out. I know last year when I was doing my first bulk, one thing that motivated me to get up and work out was I knew that I was eating in a caloric surplus, right? So I was eating more calories than I was burning. And if I didn't gym, that was probably just going to turn into fat. So that motivated me. I did not miss a single workout for 9 months. I was working out 6 days a week. I did not miss a single workout. I can tell you that right now. Because if I missed one, in my head, it's going to turn to fat, because I'm eating in a caloric surplus, and the whole idea is that it turns into muscle, right? So that's the reason for doing that. Journaling. I never had any interest in journaling. I'd always hear Hamza talk about journaling and why it's good for you, but I was like, I don't really want to journal. It's probably the same with you. You probably don't want to journal. But the day I started journaling was when he was talking about, like, if you write down 3 things you're grateful for every day. It was from the Science of Wellbeing course. If you write down 3 things you're grateful for every single day, or if you do that for 2 weeks, it's going to make you happier. I was like, solid. Okay, now what am I doing when I'm journaling? I'm writing 3 things I'm grateful for every day, and I've been journaling consistently now, and I've had a better reason to start journaling, and that's just to sort out my mind and just do that sort of thing. All right, so I can just sort out what's going on in my mind, because again, what I just said, if you don't reorganize your mind, you're never going to be able to focus, and if you don't focus, you'll never achieve any of your goals. So that's another reason for me to journal. That's just a couple of examples, right? And then the example that's pertinent to this video that I'm talking about now, about stopping over consuming content, for me, I don't know, I think I've always known this, but it clicked. Last week it clicked. I was just like, bro, if you don't stop over consuming content, you're never going to achieve your goals, right? If I look back 5-10 years from now, or actually scratch that, if I look back the last year, I've not achieved the goals that I've wanted to achieve. Most of them, well, I wouldn't say most of them, I've achieved a good amount, but there's specific goals I really wanted to achieve, like making money is something I've wanted to do for last year. It's just been on my mind all the time. But the reason I haven't done it, because I haven't been able to focus. What's the reason I haven't been able to focus? Over consuming content. So when I cut down that middle, I just removed the middleman, and I'm like, the reason I've not been able to make money is because I've not stopped over consuming content. I made it that simple. And I was like, bro, if you look back 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and you say the reason you did not achieve your goals was because you couldn't stop over consuming content, I'd be pissed off. I'd genuinely be pissed off about that. And for me, I broke it down even further. I was like, 2 weeks. Have you even gone 2 weeks without over consuming content? Like, and when I say over consuming content, for me, the only content I consume is listening to a Spotify podcast when I'm working out in the morning. And yeah, that's basically all the content I really consume, right? So I'm like, you haven't even managed to do that for 2 weeks or even a month. If you look back 10 years from now and you're like, the reason I didn't achieve my goals is because I couldn't find the willpower to stop watching content for 2 weeks. Like, I don't know about you, but that would seriously piss me off, and I know that would irk me. That would be like number one regret of my life on my deathbed. So that's when I was like, okay, no, I need to stop. Right, and that's the message I'm trying to get across to you. Please do not let over-consuming content, and it's probably you as well. You're probably struggling with the same thing. Do not let over-consuming content be the reason you don't achieve your goals. And scratch that the achieving your goals. Do not let over-consuming content be the reason you live a life where you don't reach your potential and you're miserable all the time. I don't know about you, but for me, when I don't do the work that I'm supposed to do, and I know that I'm just not living up to my potential every day, it makes me miserable. It genuinely makes me miserable, because I'm thinking, what am I doing with my life? And if you're on self-improvement, Hamza calls this self-improvement depression, where basically you're supposed to be doing the good habits, but you're not doing them, right? That makes me miserable, and I'm like, the reason I'm miserable is because I'm over-consuming content. So when you make it that simple and you outline it like that, you gotta stop over-consuming content. Okay, that's the message I'm trying to get across to you. Make sure you hit the subscribe button below to join the Self-Improvement Brotherhood. And until next time, I'll see you boys.